The last team in this little contender core before we move on, this will be a little bit shorter of one, is the Minnesota Timberwolves. They're now just full on competing, right? They are a team trying to make the playoffs, win playoff series because they have Karl Towns, Rudy Gobert, and of course, Kermit Wilts himself, Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards is a guy we have to talk about. He is one of the most fun players in the NBA, one of the highest upside players in the NBA, could turn into a top 5 player in the league at some point. Like, there are a few guys that I think you can genuinely say that about. I don't think I would project that for Anthony Edwards because Giannis, Jokic, Luka Doncic, like all these guys are so great, right? Like all these guys are unbelievable, and it's almost impossible to reach that threshold of being that good in the NBA. If Anthony Edwards' development over the next 2 years goes right, he's one of the guys that could get there. And we started to see it last year in the playoffs that he wants the moment and he wants to be that dude that kills you. And he almost killed Memphis last year. And I am so fascinated to see where the Anthony Edwards experience goes, because he is something special for sure.
Yep. A1 from day one, as he would say. And like every natural tool that he has and brings to the table, he's learning how to tap into it a lot more consistently. A lot of the complaints about him coming out of college were, for as unbelievable as an athlete as he is a little bit too jumper heavy. That he, instead of using the athleticism to open up those step backs and the self-creation jumpers, he flips that on its head. He uses the jump shot way too much and doesn't get to the rim enough. And I think that we're starting to see a lot more balance come with his game. He's a lot smarter on the defensive end than he played at Georgia, which quite frankly was a dumpster fire when he was there on the defensive end of the floor. Having Rudy Gobert behind him is going to help him immensely. Having Chris Finch, who is an offensive genius, calling a lot of plays there, it helps him on the offensive end of the floor. I think the Timberwolves are a really, really fun team.
I wonder if we see him end up like in the top 5 in steals per game this year, knowing that he has that backing of Rudy Gobert to just gamble a little bit more and try and create transition opportunities. I wouldn't be surprised to see that. He's a really good but he's a good on-ball defender. I wouldn't say he's like really good or awesome at this point, but like he's effective on the ball. Off the ball, I think that he does have that tendency to like kind of get caught in between where he's like gambling and not really gambling and maybe not like wildly attentive all the time. I wonder if having Rudy back there, he just goes full tilt like toward gambling a little bit more and creates those transition opportunities, shoots passing lanes, does a little bit more that way. I mean, Anthony Edwards last year in that 6-game playoff series against Memphis averaged 25 points on 46% from the field, 40% from 3, 82% from the line. He was fucking 20 years old doing that. He was 20
and big
20
shots
years
too.
Old and killer shots. Like, it's like, look, you don't want to read too much into like the fact that, he was in a movie this summer and like, honestly, like stole the movie in every single scene that he was on screen. He's just that guy. Like there are so few people that are that comfortable with themselves and are that comfortable like on screen or that comfortable like in that moment. And it's so funny to see him like be that comfortable being the villain in a movie, right? He's 20 years old, and like think about like how old like the actors are that you see play teenagers in movies. Typically like they're 24 25 a lot of the time because like they have more life experience, they've gone through it. Like it's not all the time, but like a lot of the time actors are a little bit older. Anthony Edwards 20 years old playing like a 20-year-old and was so at home and so at ease. Like that guy should be in movies, and that guy should be leading the Timberwolves in the middle of the playoffs. Like he is someone that I genuinely believe like can kind of do anything at this point.
Yeah. He's him. He's definitely him.
Yeah. Just a couple other guys on this roster. Jaden McDaniels looks like a really fun piece. The offense is going to have to come along. The shooting is going to have to come along and be a little bit more effective. But he has some ability to handle the ball and create a shot. He's going to have to make plays as a passer a little bit more. But defensively, he's incredibly impactful. The combination of him and Rudy Gobert will hopefully allow Karl Towns to be mitigated a little bit on the defensive end, playing in between those two because they're very different. Rudy's obviously the best rim protector in the NBA, and McDaniel's just like this 6'10" guy with long arms who flies around and has real quickness and can guard 2 through 4, right? Just a very impactful player, impactful off the ball as well. Really good player, really good starting quality player that's going to make 9 figures in his NBA career, I think.
Yep. Yeah. I like McDaniels there. I mean, intrigued by some of the guys that they brought in this year. Like I know, shout out Matt Penny with the Josh Minot guy, who everyone seems to be much higher on now after summer league performances. Minnesota's got some interesting pieces. I think for me, it's all going to come down to, can Anthony Edwards turn into that number one option on the offensive end of the floor? And then what type of role players, skill players do they need the next 2, 3, 4 years around him, Towns, and Gobert to really make this thing sing? Because, as good as McDaniels is, I worry a little bit on the offensive end of the floor about how he and Gobert look, playing on the same floor as each other. I think there's enough shooting and floor spacing. They're going to be okay. But it might be one of those things just to keep in the back of your mind of, is there somebody else that might be a better fit here? Like for all of the postseason issues the Utah Jazz had over the last several years, they had a winning formula of, get shooters and really good offensive players and have Rudy Gobert back there to clean things up. You wonder what it could look like weaponized on the defensive end with somebody like McDaniels, who, is a really good wing defender. But you also know that the formula works. And if you can just go back to it with some better players, with, a couple other guys that might be more polished on both ends of the floor, as opposed to Utah, which is really heavily on the offensive end and not as much on D in spots 1 through 4. The Timberwolves have different directions that they can go here.
Yeah, totally. The Wendell Moore pick was interesting. He, hopefully, as long as he shoots, is a great fit within this core, but another guy potentially that may have some shooting questions. I know he hit a high percentage last year, but was not a volume shooter. And I think a lot of times teams were a little bit more comfortable to leave him open off the catch than to close out on him hard, right? Like they were trying to stop him from getting to the rim, stop him from getting to the paint, being able to make dribble pass plays, being able to finish at the rim with his length. I think that, how he develops as a shooter, and he could become a good shooter in time, but how he develops as a shooter is going to be very critical for his play in the NBA. I'm also still a Jalen Noel guy. I think he's going to be an impactful scorer on some level. Naz Reid has been like a solid, okay backup center at this point. We'll see, man. This is a fun group at the very least, and one of the most intriguing teams to watch in the NBA next year because of the Gobert Towns experiment that they've decided to undertake.